Hello, welcome to today's video. We'll be talking about the dark night of the soul. I've been meaning to make this video for quite some time, but I wasn't sure if I had the motivation and the proper inspiration to make it. I could finally share my story and personal perspective on the dark night of the soul. So what is the dark night of the soul? Wow. Simply put, the dark night of the soul is a period of confusion, a loss of identity, purpose and meaning in your life while you're dealing with your own internal struggles to find meaning, to find your way out of this deep, dark pit. A lot of things can trigger it. It usually stems from a loss of identity is the first part. A loss of something triggers it, and then you're kind of put in this perpetual state of confusion, and you're not quite sure how to get out of it. It's a weird mental phenomenon. A lot of philosophers and gurus and enlightened individuals have touched upon the subject. And I won't consider myself an expert on this, but it's something that I've personally been through. It can usually occur a couple times in your lifetime. It can be a quarter-life crisis, a midlife crisis, or after a loss of something. It seems like a deep loss triggers this pain. And it's an interesting thing because the dark night of the soul, I feel like, affects all of us in strange ways. Simply put, you can define it as a period of depression and deep confusion. And it's almost like there is no meaning to your life. So for myself, the dark night of the soul began right after I graduated college. I think it was a mixture of graduating college during the peak of the pandemic, not getting to celebrate with my friends and to rejoice this long 4 years of struggling in school and just have one final hurrah together, and moving back to my hometown of Denver, a place where I haven't been in 4 years, and I felt absolutely left behind. Because I moved for 4 years. The sense of community and friends that I built 4 years ago were no longer there, and they weren't really a part of my life. And on top of this, someone that I truly loved at the time broke up with me due to the long distance and a difference in personal values. And I'm really grateful for that after a year has happened. But a combination of these things and a loss of identity and purpose and not knowing where I want to go in life really triggered my experience with the dark night of the soul. Disclaimer, I'm not a licensed clinical therapist or psychologist, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm just some guy on the internet and I'm just sharing my personal experience. If you are dealing with extreme feelings of depression and sadness, please reach out to someone. Okay, so here I am. I'm in my mom's basement, right? I graduated college and I didn't really have a job lined up. I feel like there's all these expectations society put upon myself that I feel like I needed to fulfill, to feel like I was being a functioning member of society and to feel respected. And I started to really question, what did I really want out of life? Who am I? What is my identity? I feel like everything up to this point no longer mattered and it was gone. It was almost like all the hard work I put in to kind of create this persona and image of myself to be respectable has all vanished. And it was a beautiful moment of introspection to realize that there is no meaning to my life and I have to find that meaning and create it for myself. But this was such a hard time when you're dealing with heartbreak, loss of friendship, loss of community. You just feel kind of worthless, right? When you're just unemployed after you graduate a really good university with great grades and job prospects. And then on top of that, the pandemic, you weren't really able to see anyone and any opportunities that were there were kind of taken away. I know I briefly touched upon this in a previous video, so check that out. But no, I feel like a combination of all these things kind of made me feel like I was worthless. I had no direction, and it was almost like I lost my identity. There are days where I just wake up and I just couldn't get out of this dark pit. It's this feeling as if you're walking in a desert forever. There's no water, there's no sun. It's just you walking alone. In the time frame, it's like, when does this end? You ask yourself, when does this dark night of the soul end? And I know this sounds so crazy, and it kind of goes over to the philosophy route of my channel, but I truly believe that it's dependent upon if you're ready to grow up and face your demons, because we all know that growth is painful, and you hear it all the time, and you're like, I'm ready to grow. But growth is so unique to your personal struggles and what triggers you and your fears that it is so painful. Because growth is painful because you've been avoiding it all your life. I feel like I've been avoiding all the pain in my life, and in order to grow, you have to backtrack and face everything you avoided up to this certain point. So you really have to face your internal demons, your insecurities, anything that you've personally feared you have to face. You have to face the idea of not being liked, to be denied, to feel like a social outcast, to never have a belonging. You kind of feel like you're no longer yourself. the energy you had to kind of meet other people, to go out, it feels like it gets transformed and it goes inwards. It feels like everything up to this point is starting to go inwards, and you're going on a long journey back home. And I feel like you kind of lost this as a kid. I feel like when you're a kid, you are so optimistic, you're so present to life, and you're not concerned with the future or the past. You're just there, you know, you're just having a blast. And that's like the beauty of children. They're just so present and so innocent. But at some point through school and conditioning, you kind of just get lost in the sauce. You start caring about prestige, social status, and power. And then you lose your identity in the process, like who you truly are. And I feel like once this quarter life crisis, the dark night of the soul, it was the first time in my life I just took a giant step back and was like, holy crap, I feel like I just got lost. And I feel like I got thrown into this wave of chasing prestige. It was like I was following someone else's life. Like I didn't even want half of these things, but I realized I was chasing these items, these social concepts that I truly didn't even want. I just did it because that's what everyone else told me that mattered, right? Through role models, through books, through the media. It was like, this is what the perfect life looks like. And you need to have these things, have the good job, the title, the income to be truly happy. But it kind of was this giant step back where everything I thought I cared about just vanished. And I just saw myself and had a one-on-one and was like, dude, what happened to you? When you were a kid, you were so full of energy, you were happy, and depression wasn't even a thing. Depression, anxiety, and sadness, and fear of the unknown, it wasn't really there. You just had courage to exist in the moment, and you were carefree. I mean, I get it. Responsibility comes in as you get older, and they were very real, and when you have to support yourself, that safety net kind of goes away. But it was finally the time where I could just evaluate what I wanted in my life for myself for the first time. And this meant leaving everything I knew behind. I couldn't bring anyone because I feared judgment. And during this time, a lot of people thought I was going crazy because everyone thinks you're just depressed, which might have been true, but it's almost like this tranquil peace of sadness. It's like you're happy, but you're sad at the same time. You're blissfully sad. That's the best way I could put it. And I know I probably sound like I'm on a ton of drugs, but I didn't do any drugs. I didn't really drink. I just kind of sat. And it was the first time where I felt like I was living again. But it took a long journey through my past and a reevaluation of my priorities to finally get my shit together and to think right. And I feel like that's what the dark night of the soul was. It's this journey into yourself that you've been avoiding your entire life. Because when you're surrounded by friends all the time, you have a lot of distractions. You have a lot of distractions. You go party, have fun, care about what society tells you, but you forget what you truly want. You have an escape to not deal with the reality of your own life. But when I graduated with the pandemic, breakup, loss of jobs, for the first time, I felt like I was living again. And then one day I woke up, once I had enough, and I noticed that I'd grown tremendously and I was no longer the same person. I know this is like very personal, sounds probably crazy to a lot of people, but if you've ever been through it or even briefly had a minute or a second of presence, you know what I'm talking about. And a year later, it's been officially a year, I have moved states, I have a new job, I have a new friend group, I feel like I'm a new person, and I'm so deeply grateful for the dark night of the soul because I feel like it really aided me in my survival process, and it allowed me to focus on what I truly cared and loved. And I'm actually proud to look at myself in the mirror and be like, damn, at least I'm myself in this crazy world. So I'll leave it at that. If you've ever had these deep feelings of confusion after college, I know everyone thinks you're going through a depressive episode. You might even think you are. You might even be going crazy. But this is just my personal experience. This isn't medical advice. This is just my philosophical struggle, my existential crisis that I experienced at 22, 23 right now, and I'm super grateful. So please like and subscribe for more content like this. I know this is probably the craziest video I ever made, but at least I'm being honest about my personal struggle and being honest with myself and you guys. Namaste.